Hey, what's up? Improvement Warrior, Jason Young, back with you once again. Welcome to the next webinar in the Improvement Warrior University series. This is the 14th pillar, the next pillar of health, breathing. Let me pull up the webinar here so we can get started, get into it. So I'll be recording this in probably several things because this is going to be a long one. And yeah, so super long. All right, so here we go. Okay, so breathing, the next pillar of health. O2 and CO2, oxygen and carbon dioxide. Without, there is no life. Very, very simple. Starting off with one of my memes here. Simple life forms can handle protons better than complex. Protons developed on Earth when oxygen was not present. Humans developed when oxygen was present. Protons are for expansion of the gut bugs when oxygen is not present in lumen of intestines. Protons provide energy, info to help develop non-brain organs, using the power of our gut bacteria as leverage. We'll talk a little bit more about protons and, of course, electrons if you have been watching and staying up to date with previous webinars. Basically, your ratio of electrons to protons is what health or disease is based on. So if your proton ratio gets too high, you're going to have inflammation, you're going to develop symptoms of disease, and you will eventually develop a disease if it is not fixed. So electrons make the world go round, and protons are something that bacteria uses more. Remember, we stole a mitochondria from a bacteria in order to make our life work. Mitochondria is basically the powerhouse of the cell. And so without that mitochondria, we would not be who we are. You would not be hearing me talk. You would not be hearing that. So there's three forms of life: prokaryotes, bacteria, and eukaryotes. And we are the most complex eukaryote. And we need both protons and we need both electrons, or both protons and electrons, to help us move forward, to help us be our best, because our mitochondria is constantly shooting out protons, but it's also shooting electrons through electron chain transport to ultimately reduce to oxygen. So, this is a quote from James Nestor, author of the book Breath, which I highly recommend. On the official webinar page, all the resources and notes will be in there, and links mentioned will be in there. But everything you or I or any other breathing thing has ever put in its mouth or in its nose or soaked through its skin is hand-me-down space dust that's been around for 13.8 billion years. This wayward matter has been split apart by sunlight, spread throughout the universe, and come back together again. To breathe is to absorb ourselves in what surrounds us, to take in little bits of life, understand them, and give pieces of ourselves back out. Respiration is, at its core, reciprocation. Einstein says energy cannot be destroyed. We can simply redirect it or put it someplace else. Another quote here, and this is truly amazing of what we do with oxygen and breathing. 30 pounds of air that passes through our lungs every day, and that 1.7 pounds of oxygen our cells consume is as important as what we eat or how much we exercise. breathing is a missing pillar of health. We evolved two breathing systems. Humans evolved two breathing systems. Mouth breathing is supposed to be the backup, and most people have made mouth breathing the primary form of breathing, which is one of the main reasons why we face many, many disease epidemics right now. The pillars and how they have evolved. So again, we're now at 14 pillars. I started off with 5 pillars early 2018, and before February 2018, it went to 6 pillars. And October 2018 went to 10 pillars. January 2019, 13 pillars. And July 2021, 14 pillars. The 14 pillars of health. Number 1, circadian biology. Number 2, breathing. It's that important. 3 is mindset. 4 is light. 5 is water. Magnetism. Then EMF. Sleep. Nutrition. 10 is stress. 11 is fitness. NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So basically not just like moving around, fidgeting, doing other things, mowing the lawn, gardening, that kind of stuff. RRR is number 12. So rest, regeneration, restoration, or mobilizations. 13 is sitting, and 14 is posture. Everything basically ties into each other. Breathing is fundamental to everything. I could put breathing at number 1. Okay? I could put sleep at number 1. But you've got to make a list, and this is basically my personal list of the 14 pillars of health. If you have not watched the 13 pillars of health video, it will be linked up, and highly recommend doing that so you get an idea of how each one of those affects our health. Changing your mind. So again, mindset was pushed back to number 3 now, but breathing is number 2. Light, water, magnetism is, of course, that 3-legged stool of nature. But without oxygen and carbon dioxide, none of those work properly. Okay, so remember, if you knock a 3-legged stool, if you take one stool or one leg of the stool out, the stool falls down. So it needs to be combined, okay? But without proper breathing, it's not going to work properly. So breathing number 2, light number 4, water number 5, magnetism number 6, with a question mark of possibly magnetism moving to number 4. Dr. Jack Cruz, as I'm reading right now, I'm in some of his blogs that are really talking about magnetism, and he says that magnetism is basically the father of the 3-legged stool. So magnetism controls the light, controls the water, where it should go. Our brain and heart, well, heart then brain, has the highest mitochondrial density, and the magnetism. So when you have high mitochondrial density, you should have that should be associated with a higher rate of magnetism. So the magnetism should be able to pull the electrons through electron chain transport better to reduce to oxygen, and that's why magnetism is question mark there. So once I'm through reading these blogs, it might move again, but still, light, water, magnetism, very, very important and very, very connected to circadian biology. So the problems with breathing: 40% chronic nasal obstruction, and this is in the numbers from the United States. So 40% have a chronic nasal obstruction, meaning they cannot breathe clearly through their nose. Approximately 50% are habitual mouth breathers. Females and children are the worst. Okay? And when you're a habitual mouth breather, mouth breathing begets more mouth breathing. And the reason is because the mouths are not wide enough. The roof rises up instead of out, and it forms a high arched palate, which impedes your development of the nasal cavity, shrinking or disrupting the structures in the nose, which obstructs and limits air flow. Okay, so humans are the worst breathers of all animals. So congestion begets more congestion, which leads to mouth breathing. More mouth breathing begets more mouth breathing. So the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So it's like sitting in a bad posture. The more you do it, it's going to be ingrained into your body, and it's going to change your posture. It's going to move you slowly into kyphosis. And so kyphosis is the Quasimodo, the Hunchback of Notre Dame look. But it's happening more and more quickly. So it's happening in teenagers and people in their early 20s because they're looking down at their phone with major TextNet. And that is not a good thing to do. So skulls 2 and 3, they never snored, never had sleep apnea or any other chronic respiratory disease or anything like that. Their mouths are too big. Okay, so the airways for them are too large to be blocked. Okay, but skull 3, that's more of a modern human. Okay, so you can expect snoring, sleep apnea, asthma, all kinds of breathing issues. Mouth breather problems. So mouth breathing decreases pressure, which causes the soft tissues in the back to become loose and flex inward, which creates less space, okay, which makes the breathing harder. And the more you do it, the more you need to do it. Okay, so if you know somebody who is a mouth breather, if you yourself are a mouth breather, close your mouth, start breathing through your nose. And I'll be giving you a bunch of tips throughout this webinar as well. Nose breathing strengthens those tissues in the back of your throat, making it wider and easier to stay open. So the more that you do it, the easier it gets. Okay, so nose breathing begets more nose breathing. Okay, more problems. Causes dehydration, so it causes you to lose 40% more water. Okay, mitochondrial dehydration. So there's water in mitochondria, there's water in the cells. The red blood cells are mostly made of water. I think it's 98% red blood cells are water. Okay, we have water all over our body. And if we get dehydrated, then things are not going to work properly. So everywhere there is water, there is also collagen. Collagen is our #1 protein in our body. Okay, think of collagen as basically it's the electrical wire in our body, and water is basically the battery. Okay, but if that battery runs low and we get dehydrated, then the collagen is going to turn to gelatin, which is going to basically cause all types of problems, cause all types of pain problems. Bones break easier, osteoporosis, osteopenia, bone issues. Okay, not something that we want. The deepest stages of sleep is where the pineal gland releases hormones that control adrenaline, endorphins, growth hormone, and others, and also vasopressin. So vasopressin signals cells to store more of your water. And vasopressin is how animals sleep through the night without thirst or having to go to the bathroom. Okay, so waking up to go to the bathroom every single night or multiple times throughout the night is not normal. Okay, so if you're not getting enough sleep, not enough deep sleep, or not enough sleep, then your vasopressin is not normal. So your kidneys will release water, and that will make you wake up and have to go to the bathroom. And you'll also get thirst signals. Okay? So that's something on my Improvement Warrior podcast, episode 7. I went over 36 different sleep tips. And one of those tips was to basically curb your water as you get closer to bed. Okay, so you don't want to be drinking a liter of water right before you go to bed. Okay, so I mean, vasopressin can only handle so much. If you put a bunch of water in, and that's going to cause you to wake up and go to the bathroom. Okay, so that's something we don't want to do, is wake up and go to the bathroom. Okay, so another meme here: life is about our proteins, not our genes. When sleep starts sucking, we cannot clear misfolded proteins in the brain. You also are losing electrons like mad. Your telomeres get shorter, inflammation goes up, disease is coming. So like I mentioned, sleep can easily be put at number 1. It affects everything. If your sleep sucks, you pretty much know disease is coming, and you need to fix that sleep first and foremost. Otherwise, we can't fix other things in our life. Okay. All right. Erection in the nose. Our nose is made up of the same tissue as the penis, clitoris, and nipples. Noses can get erections. Nasal erectile tissue mirrors our health states. So inflammation during sickness or similar diseases, anything like that. So if you're a chronic mouth breather, you're basically going to have chronic inflammation in the nose and all through the body. And more than likely, you're a mouth breather. Okay, so the right and left nostrils turn on and off like a air conditioning or a heat system to control the temperature of your body, to control your blood pressure, to feed the brain certain chemicals, to alter your mood, neurotransmitters, dopamine, serotonin. Okay, they control your sleep and also control your emotions. Your right nostril is basically like your gas pedal, so it activates the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight nervous system. So your circulation goes up, your body temperature goes up, cortisol, blood pressure, heart rate. Okay, basically feeds our blood to the prefrontal cortex, where is logical decision making, language, computing, all that stuff. It kind of gets shut down. The left nose is your brake. So it's the parasympathetic nervous system. Blood pressure goes down, you're cooled, anxiety goes down, creative thought goes up. Okay, so Nadi Shodhana is a yoga system, a breathing system, a pranayama kind of system. You can look that up. There'll be a link in the webinar notes for that, but it shows you how to more easily activate the parasympathetic nervous system by basically doing left nostril breathing. Snoring. Snoring is not good. So it's basically inflammation in the throat and polyps, as well as having a nasal obstruction. It is not normal at all. So the amount of snoring that we do should be 0%. Okay, so just like the RDA for man-made trans fats is 0%, shouldn't compromise any part of your diet. Snoring should not be a part of any part of your life. So 45% of all adults snore occasionally, 25% all the time. 25% over 30-year-olds have sleep apnea, and 80% of those cases are undiagnosed. Sleep apnea is basically you have little mini choking events throughout the night. With snoring, you want to make sure that you have a good pillow. So you want to make sure your head is in line and your neck is in line with your spine. You don't want to be leaning too far forward, because then you'll wake up with neck pain and it'll cause posture issues and basically all kinds of different issues that affect going all the way down the body. So make sure you have a pillow that is stiff enough to support your neck. Make sure that the way you're sleeping, so whether you sleep on your side, on your back, sleeping on your stomach is not the best way to sleep, especially for a lot of people, especially adults. Kids and newborns can do it a lot easier, but sleeping on your side or sleeping on your back, make sure that your head is going to be in line. I just came back from a trip where we had to drive home, and I had to sleep in the car. And one thing I was doing was my head was all the way back, and I just found it absolutely impossible to keep my mouth closed. And I mean, I was falling in and out of sleep as I was snoring. I usually never snore, but when your head is out of line, that's when things start to go awry. Okay, so everything needs to be in line, and we'll talk about posture and whatnot. But if everything's not in line, then breathing goes bad, you start to snore, you start to do things that will cause dehydration, inflammation, and then eventually you'll lose energy and you'll lose electrons, and all those things will start to affect how you present yourself to the world, whether you're presenting health or whether you're starting to present disease. Okay, so another meme here. Melatonin is designed to increase electron flow on our mitochondria as we sleep. We do this by uncoupling electron chain transport. Naturally, in cold, melatonin comes out when temperature drops a few degrees when we are asleep. This increasing the current of flow of electrons by releasing free fatty acids from fat cells to make more oxygen to replenish our tissues during sleep. Cold and current are the only two ways to increase magnetism. Okay, so melatonin is basically one of the most important hormones. Most people know it as the hormone of darkness. It is made in the AM sunlight. Okay, so sun, we've talked about many webinars, so Circadian Biology 1, 2, and 3. But melatonin is made, that's why you want to be out for the sunrise, and you want to be out for as much AM sunlight, UVA sunlight as possible, because that's typically when melatonin is made. Well, actually, melatonin is made from serotonin, but it's a process. So melatonin is basically made by the sun, and it doesn't come out until you've experienced at least 4 hours of darkness, and you don't want to eat 4 hours before bed, because leptin plays a role with helping of releasing melatonin. Okay, and typically your body will drop your body temperature a few degrees, and that's when the most melatonin starts to be released, and that's when you're going to be put into the stage 3 and stage 4. So REM sleep, stage 3, and then stage 4 is the deep sleep. That's the areas we want to really get into for sleep, because if we don't get into those, it's basically that other meme with the unfolding of proteins. we can't recycle those proteins, so we can't recuperate them. And so we're basically using the same proteins day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out. Okay, and that is when disease will present itself and take you out, which we don't want. And of course, never take exogenous melatonin, because that will destroy our ability to make melatonin. So athlete performance, mouth versus nose. So there's a bike test. Douillard conducted this test, a 200-watt bicycle test. He found that 47 mouth breaths versus 14 nose breaths per minute. And they had the exact same heart rate. So overbreathing is a major, major problem that we do want to stop. And if you're doing mouth breathing, then you're going to have basically an overbreathing problem, which we want to stop completely. So Carl Stough was a choir director, and in the 1960s he studied sprinters, and he found that they were worse than the average person, because usually a sprinter is taking short, violent breaths. Okay, so before I read this book and also another book, the Buteyko Close Your Mouth book, I try to sprint every Sunday, and basically I would do the same thing, short. So you're just taking it in, taking it out, and you're doing that to recover, and yeah, it's just all kinds of bad. So when I exercise, I was a chronic overbreather, and I was a mouth breather. And you can see in the picture on the right, that's me. Now, basically for my stamina, my conditioning, I don't do cardio, like running or riding a bike and doing that kind of thing. I do short hit kind of stuff. So when I do that, I put one piece of mouth tape over my mouth. Basically recovering from performance, adapt the same breathing patterns as emphysema patients is what he discovered these sprinters would do. So I've now changed, and I'm actually doing breath holds while I'm doing the sprinting, and it's scary, it's tough, and but I can really tell the difference in my my ability to recover and get to the next set. But basically what I'll do is you want to exhale at the start. So right when you are about to go, blow out all the air and basically hold your breath as long as you can. And then your first breath in is going to be rich in oxygen, and you'll be able to deliver that to the blood cells, and you'll be able to stave off that lactic acid buildup, and you'll be able to run faster and longer. Okay, so another meme here. Oxygen is the chemical output coupled to electron flow. When electrons flow faster on our inner mitochondrial membrane, the associated magnetic field also increases. Oxygen is the only gas on the periodic table that is paramagnetic. So if you hear me talk about cold or cold thermogenesis, think magnetism of your mitochondria. So I mentioned that earlier, mitochondria is biggest in our heart and brain. And when the magnetism increases, it's able to pull those electrons through electron chain transport faster to reduce to oxygen, which then becomes more electrons, and then the process just continues and continues. So it's a quantum process happening inside of us. So Vo2 Max, is it the best indicator for endurance? And I would say no, based on what I know now. Before, I would have said yes. That's what you need to improve, is your Vo2 Max. Slower longer exhales equals more carbon dioxide levels, and that equals higher aerobic endurance. So VO2 max is a measure of your highest oxygen consumption. You want to train to breathe less, and that's going to increase your VO2 max. So it's going to increase your athletic stamina, and it's also going to give you a life boost as well. Okay, so hypoventilation, hypoxic training, and also known as the Buteyko technique. So there's a Russian named, I don't know his first name, Buteyko. He's the founder of the Buteyko Clinic, which is, I'll talk about it a little bit later, but it's one of the books that I'm reading. His book was Close Your Mouth by Peter McEwen. And basically, Peter McEwen had asthma, and he basically cured himself of asthma. And we'll talk about asthma here in a little bit. But hypoventilation training, your muscles adapt to tolerate more lactic acid, so you're able to train longer and harder. Okay, so RBCs, which is red blood cells, you get more RBCs because you have more oxygen being delivered to all those red blood cells, and you get more energy. So it increases all athletic performance, but it can also be used for life. So I think I'm going to stop here. It's getting late. Gotta get that sleep, and I'll be back to finish this off. Hey, we're back. Let's get going. Back into the breathing webinar. So here we are at tape your mouth. So taping your mouth, one of the best biohacks that I have done. I highly recommend it for basically everyone. I don't know if you can really see me anymore, but this is the tape. It did come off last night, but it just depends on how I move and whatnot, and whether the tape sets before I start moving at night. But great sleep last night still, regardless of when it came off or how it came off. I recommend doing vertical strips. I do 2 or 3 vertical strips down my mouth. So either 2, one on the left, one on the right, and sometimes I go down the middle. I did 2 last night and it came off, so probably tonight I'll do 3 to make sure it doesn't come off. But 3M tape, that will be in the thing, so it's 3M medical tape, so that way you don't do duct tape or Gorilla tape or something big and huge and anxiety causing like that. So if you do need to open your mouth, all you have to do is just open your mouth and it should come off pretty easily. But best biohack I've ever done, and because when you're getting 8 nonstop consecutive hours of nose breathing, your life will take off. So highly recommend doing this if you're not doing it. And of course, the vasopressin is completely turned off as long as you are tapering your water at night. So definitely do that. Yeah, and that was one of the original sleep tips that I had. I think it was number 15 or number 14, but definitely tape your mouth. And if you have questions on it, if you have anxiety about it, I've been sharing it with pretty much everybody who's having issues sleeping. And a lot of people will say, oh, I've got so much anxiety that I wouldn't be able to do that. And that is, I mean, the reason you have anxiety is because probably you're mouth breathing and you're sleeping wrong. So once you start fixing the things that need to be fixed, anxiety goes away. Anxiety is I know when I had my high anxiety, I mean, I was a mouth breather. And I mean, when you have an anxiety attack, what are you doing? You're over breathing, you're breathing through the mouth, you're breathing through the chest, you're not breathing through the diaphragm, you're not breathing through the nose. Okay? Fix the stuff and you fix your problems. Anxiety is a major problem for a lot of people. So and it sucks. So I know when I went through it, it really sucked. But if you're not willing to do the things that are going to help you, then you're going to keep your disease. So like I say all the time, most of the diseases are reversible, but most of the people are not because they become their disease. So don't become your disease. Be coachable. All right. Breath. In one breath, more molecules of air will pass through your nose than all the grains of sand on all the beaches in the world. That's trillions and trillions. So that was one of the most astounding things that I learned when doing this. So just one breath. That's right there is more molecules will pass through your nose than all grains of sand anywhere in the world. Just think about that. That's amazing. So we breathe in good and we breathe in bad. So mucus is our first line of defense. So it moves 1/2 inch of mucus per minute. That'll be 60 feet per day. It collects it and then it goes down the throat, down to the stomach, down to your acid, down to your intestines, and then it's cleared out the body. Okay, that's a lot of freaking mucus. Here's a quote, 1500 BC, the Ebers Papyrus is one of the oldest medical texts. So if you are reading medical texts, you want to make sure they're older than what's being printed today. The nostrils will feed air to the heart and the lungs, but the mouth will not. Okay. Another meme here. So blue light destroys melatonin levels in the brain, and your pineal gland gets calcified. Also gets calcified with fluoride. It decreases oxygen tensions, and we become chronically and slowly hypoxic, and we become sleep deprived. This slows and eventually stops DHA from entering the brain. DHA is designed to turn light to an electrical signal, then back to light to signal our mitochondria what is going on in the world around us. So everything is pretty much connected. Mitochondria is our environmental sensor, and if we are not on a microsecond to microsecond basis, and if we're surrounded by blue light, we're surrounded by electropollution, non-native EMF, then when melatonin gets destroyed, we have calcium efflux, we get inflammation, we get hypoxic, electron chain transport, the electrons cannot flow through because our magnetism, our magnetic sense is going down, and basically everything is going haywire. But the food that you need to eat is that DHA, the seafood. The seafood needs to be in the SN2 position, and when you eat seafood, that's the position it's in. When you eat fish oil, you have no idea what you're getting. Plus, fish oil is highly oxidized. Okay, so it's oxidized by light, fake light, and it's oxidized by temperature. Seafood is protected. It's protected from that oxidation. Plus, you've got iodine, which is the number one mineral that you need. DHA is the number one nutrient that you need. Iodine is the number one nutrient that you need. All right, so dental. Number one cause of cavities is mouth breathing. I would never have guessed that. So it leads to periodontal disease, bad breath. It's worse than sugar, bad diet, or bad hygiene. And of course, just make sure the fluoride is out of your life. Toothpaste, the water that you actually drink, and the water that you're bathing in. The water that you're bathing in is actually more important than the water you drink. They say a 5 to 10 minute shower is like drinking 3 to 5 gallons of water. Because remember, anything that goes on your skin, eventually it gets in your skin. So your skin is basically just another mouth. Don't put anything on your skin that you wouldn't put in your mouth. And plus, you should be taking cold showers. I always end with cold because I usually do shave in the shower. And so you want those pores to open up so you can get the best shave possible. But always end with cold. Okay? And do a contrast shower if you can't handle the cold yet. So contrast, you do rounds. So say you do like 5 to 6 rounds as hot as you can, 30 seconds to a minute, and then as cold as you can, 30 seconds to a minute. But always end in cold, always end in cold. Cold works all the time. Increase that magnetism. Nitric oxide. Sinuses release a huge boost of it. Okay? It's a critical role, and it's got a critical role in increasing your circulation and delivering oxygen to your cells. It improves your immune function. It regulates your weight, circulation, improves your mood, and improves your sexual function. So Viagra works by releasing nitric oxide into your blood to open up your capillaries in the genitals. Free Viagra is UVA sunlight. So nitric oxide is released when we get UVA sunlight. So UVA comes out a little bit after the sunrise. It's going to depend on where you live and the time of season. And so get the D-Minder app. It will tell you when it goes from 0 UV to 1 UV. And once that 1 UV is out, that's UVA light. But of course, there's little sections. So it just doesn't go from 0 to 1. It's going to go 0.001, 0.002, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and so forth. Okay? So that's why it's very important. Morning sun is always the most important for your health, for your breathing, for your oxygen, for your melatonin, for nitric oxide, for everything. Nose breathing can increase your nitric oxide by 6 times. Okay? So close your mouth. The nose is just like a muscle. You either use it or you lose it. So strength versus weakness. It's much like your eyes. It's much like your muscles. Okay? Don't do push-ups. Your chest is going to get weak. Your shoulders are going to get weak. Your triceps are going to get weak. You're going to get weak. Okay? Don't do your workouts regularly. You're going to get weak. Wear sunglasses. Your eyes are going to get weak. Okay? All these things, they either weaken us or strengthen us. Okay? It's not right in the middle. Okay? You can't stay the same. You're either getting worse or you're getting better. So you make the actions, you take the actions that are going to get you better. Okay? So close your mouth, take off the stupid sunglasses, and of course, contacts are going to weaken your eyes as well. Okay? So contacts are probably, it depends on who you are, but contacts on par with sunglasses because it's basically a suction cup on your eye. Your cornea gets its oxygen from the environment. Okay, so if you have a suction cup on there, you're making your cornea hypoxic. You can't breathe. Okay, so take it off. I know when I was in high school, I never wore my glasses, and I had to get contacts because I was so vain, so ego-driven. All right, but we've got to drop the ego. We've got to be the healthiest version that we can be. And plus, the sun is going to help our hypoxia. Or not our hypoxia, our myopia. Are you getting enough nitric oxide? Okay, so nitric oxide through the decades of life, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. So when we're young, we have 100% nitric oxide, then 80% in 30s, 50% in the 40s, 35% in the 50s, 60s, 15%. Okay, and then this is basically the modern human. Okay, so if you are trying to live your best life, you're probably in your 60s, you're probably not going to be at 15%. If you're doing everything right, if you're getting the morning sunshine, if you're breathing through your nose. Okay, so nitric oxide is stored in your nasal sinuses. Nasal breathing floods the lungs with nitric oxide. And this is from Dr. Stephen Lin, great person to follow on social media. He's got some great posts. All right, so expand your lung capacity. One of the good things here is the 5 Tibetan rites in the appendix. I don't know what I'm going to be calling it, but there's going to be lots of breathing techniques. I'll take you through the 5 Tibetan rites. It's kind of like a yoga kind of movement kind of thing. There's a Bass Rutten O2 expander. This is what I use every morning. You are breathing through your mouth. I only do it, I'd say less than 40 times. And yeah, it'll be in the appendix, but it's basically, you've got different things on it. It just goes in your mouth, and then the hole gets smaller as the levels go through. So I think I'm on level 11 right now as recording this. And basically you just breathe in, and yeah, it really works. So one thing using that thing, using the Bass Rutten thing, is when I did my boxing workouts, my sides would get really sore when I was punching, and now I don't really have that problem anymore. So it's pretty cool. And the Framingham study took 5,200 subjects, and the #1 predictor of life expectancy was lung capacity. Right? So expand your lungs. Small, less efficient lungs equals you get sicker quicker and you died faster, regardless of how. Okay, so that was what the study concluded. Your lungs lose approximately 12% capacity from ages 30 to 50, and even more after that. And women will lose more than men. So women, you guys get taken out quicker than men because you are supposed to be your mitochondria is more sensitive, so you're supposed to sense the environment more. That's why you go through menopause and all that stuff. Men can go through perimenopause, but it's not perimenopause. I forget what it's named. It's just menopause for men. But basically, if you're living wrong, men will go through it. But you're not supposed to if you're a man. So exercise, breathe more, 2 to 60 minutes. Oh, so for exercise, you're going to be breathing more. It's supposed to be 20 to 60 minutes. You're breathing more for 20 to 60 minutes, but the rest of the day, your pulse should be down, your heart rate should be down, your breathing capacity should be better with exercise. Okay. Diaphragm, which is also known as your second heartbeat. It beats to its own rhythm. It influences the rate of your heart rate and the strength of your actual heart rate. Diaphragm, of course, is a muscle, so it can be strengthened or it can be weakened based on what you're doing and how you're breathing. We do want to breathe through the belly, not primarily through the chest. Okay. It's umbrella shaped. It's right beneath the lungs. It's going to lift up during the exhale and it will shrink the lungs. And then it drops down when you're inhaling and the lungs expand. And it does this 50,000 times per day, or it's supposed to. It's going to pump 2,000 gallons of blood per day, or your body's going to pump 2,000 gallons of blood per day. All the blood circulates through the veins and the arteries in about 1 minute to go through the entire body. You have a thoracic pump inside your chest, and this delivers oxygenated blood and removes waste products. So, and the pump is powered by your diaphragm. Okay? So if you're not breathing through your chest, you're not breathing through your diaphragm, you're hanging on to that waste, that toxic waste. We don't want to do that. The diaphragm and shallow breathing. Okay, so humans can breathe wrong for decades, or they can breathe wrong for their entire life. And this is going to limit the diaphragm, it's going to limit your lung capacity, and it's going to cause major issues. Remember that study, the greatest life expectancy is through your lung capacity. One exercise that you can do to help improve your diaphragm and lung capacity is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 exercise. So you're going to breathe in through the nose as deeply as you can, through the belly. Chest will also rise if you're breathing in as deeply as you can. And then you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. You're going to keep doing that as softly as you can. So I had to do it for the microphone, but so it should be soft. And then once you're starting to run out of air, you're going to just mouth the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you just keep doing that until you're completely out and completely expelled of air. And count the number of times you do it. And then you can do it once or twice or 3 times a day. And you should be able to improve the number of sets you're able to do with that exercise. All right, CO2. We have 100 times more CO2 than oxygen in the body. We lose weight, we lose our body fat through exhaled breath. Okay, so if you lost 10 pounds of fat, 8.5 of that came out through the lungs, mostly as CO2 and also water vapor. The rest is sweated out and or urinated. Okay? So urination is basically your body is marking water for death. Okay? So your body is constantly trying to structure water, and it wants the best water inside of it. So it's going to sweat that out, or it's going to pee it out with the expectation that you're going to put that water back in, and the water is going to be good. Okay? So spring water, clearly filtered. There's other filters. Make sure they filter out the fluoride and the chlorine and the bromine and all the bad stuff, or reverse osmosis water, right? Or like Arctic water. Okay. The bodies need more CO2. Okay. Your oxygen stays relatively the same. I believe it's 90% is bad. I've also heard 95% oxygen tension is bad. When I had my last physical, I was at 98%. So, and that was one thing during this research that I found amazing as well, is that we breathe out the fat. Okay, so when you exercise, the fat doesn't shrink because of the exercise; it shrinks because of we're exhaling that fat. Okay? Which is why exercising with your mouth closed is even better. Okay, so we're going to burn more fat. Close your mouth. Close your mouth. Tape your mouth if you're really having some trouble. Okay, So my workouts have really changed dramatically. Like I told you before, I tape my mouth during my conditioning sessions, but my strength sessions, I would say I'm now breathing through my nose, I'd say 90 to 95% of the time. Like sometimes it will get hard and I will have to take a breath through my mouth, but I'm able to be aware and stop it immediately. So much changed exercise and much feeling better, performance is going up and all that stuff. Traveling oxygen. So inside your lungs, you have little tubes called the bronchioles, and these go down to the alveoli, however you pronounce that. You have about 500 million of those. Those feed into the red blood cells, which feed into the protein called hemoglobin, which travels to the muscles and the other tissues, and oxygen is delivered all over the body via that way. As oxygen is delivered, carbon dioxide will get off as you begin to exhale and exit the body through the alveoli. And this process takes only about a minute. And we have 25 trillion red blood cells. Inside each one is 270 million hemoglobins, which have 4 oxygen molecules for each one. We have 1 billion oxygen molecules within each red blood cell. Okay, so 1 billion times 25 trillion oxygen molecules in our body. Pretty amazing. Oxygen is the cellular fuel, and hemoglobin is the lift or Uber driver. Okay, delivering it to the places that we need it the most. Okay, and another fundamental reason why red blood cells don't have nuclei or mitochondria. So red blood cells are naturally designed to have DHA-laden cell membranes to deliver both DHA and oxygen to the tissues. They have to have less magnetic ability than the tissues they're delivering to. Otherwise, we will hold on to that oxygen and DHA forever. Right? And remember, oxygen showed up about the same, or DHA showed up about the same time as oxygen. So it's just as important as oxygen. DHA needs oxygen. Oxygen needs DHA to work. And otherwise, you can't get to optimal health. All right, carbon dioxide, part 2. Carbon dioxide is used to separate oxygen from hemoglobin, so oxygen can go where it is needed. Okay, some muscles get more oxygen than others when we're exercising, because those muscles, we're using more carbon dioxide, which draws more oxygen to it. Okay, so if you're sprinting, obviously your legs are going to need more oxygen than your arms or your neck muscles or your back muscles. Okay? Healthy people, overbreathing or inhaling pure oxygen has absolutely no benefit at all. Plus, you could be making yourself oxygen deficiency or causing an oxygen deficiency, which will cause like a relative short-term hypoxic, which we don't want. Okay. Extra oxygen is only important for high altitude or people who are sick and cannot maintain a 90% oxygen saturation level. But long-term supplemental oxygen damages lungs, decreases your red blood cells, and it's harder to breathe in the future. Okay? So remember, any supplement, most supplements, I would say the 3 that are the most damaging would be oxygen, vitamin D, and melatonin. Because remember, if your body makes it, you are not designed to take it. Okay, in most cases. Okay, context is always needed because everybody has their own n equals 1. Everybody's life is a little bit different. Okay. All right. CO2, 3. Carbon dioxide is the chief hormone of the entire body. I'll say that again. Carbon dioxide is the chief hormone of the entire body. It's the only one that is produced by every tissue and that probably acts on every single organ. Carbon dioxide is, in fact, a more fundamental component of living matter than is oxygen. So that is a quote from Yandell Henderson, Director of Applied Physiology at Yale. Another meme. Life became more advanced and eventually created us because of electrons. It is a fermion that absorbs photons from the sun to move energy through the mitochondria to reduce to oxygen to create more electrons. DHA is the ultimate electron catcher. Eat seafood or die faster. Okay, so electrons or DHA helps you catch those electrons, but without oxygen, DHA cannot work properly. Okay, so close your mouth. And DHA, I did a whole webinar on DHA. It's the Epipaleo Diet Part 2. And so what about fish oil? I covered fish oil before. Fish oil supplements are low in DHA and do not include iodine, selenium, iron, or zinc, which are essential for the assimilation of DHA into the cell. The natural food source is the only foolproof way to get your DHA. And as I was saying before, fish oil is heavily oxidized via light, so bad light, blue light, and also sunlight, and temperature. So if you are going to use a supplement, you want to make sure as much of that DHA is in the SN2 position, which most fish oils are not, and needs to be refrigerated on delivery, and once it's in the store or once it comes to you, so it needs to be shipped in ice, and also it needs to be in a dark bottle so the light cannot pass through it. But it's always easier to get the fish because the fish guarantees it. It's in the SN2 position. The SN2 position is the only position that will get into your brain, and that's where we can process it the most. Now, if it's not in the SN2 position, it will help your cell membranes, but it won't help your brain. It won't help your nervous system. Okay. And if you're vegan, which you should not be, or vegetarian, using algae pills will not work at all because there's no SN2 position. Okay. We need the fish, we need the seafood to eat the algae, eat the plankton, so then they can do their process, work their magic to turn it into the SN2 position. So we can assimilate it and use it properly and be able to catch electrons. All right, long breaths. Normal breathing, the lungs absorb only about approximately 25% oxygen. Longer breaths allow us to soak up more oxygen. Okay. The slow breathing brings to optimal efficiency functions of the heart, functions of the circulation, and the nervous system. Then return to normal or talking starts, these systems slowly fall from optimal. So me doing this webinar, I am not at optimal breathing state. Or me doing my podcast, I am not optimal breathing state. Okay? But we're not doing that all the time. Best breath is something called conscious breathing, where you're breathing in for 5.5 seconds, exhaling for 5.5 seconds. That equals 5.5 breaths per minute. Okay? So you want your conscious breathing to be the breathing that you're conscious of and doing most of the time. You're not talking or doing other things. All right. So I'm doing this in the morning and it is about to be sunrise, so I need to be out for that. So I'm going to stop here and we'll come back and record another part. And we're back. Let's get back right into it here. We are on the ANS, the autonomic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system is basically fast, incomplete breaths. Okay, so if you're nervous, if you're anxious, if you're scared of something, life-threatening is going on, you'll be in basically the sympathetic. So that is your fight type of thing, fight or flight. And then the parasympathetic, you've got the slow, relaxing breathing or slow, relaxing breaths. Sympathetic stress can just take a second to activate. Okay, so it's something you see, something you do, something you read, or you're just perpetually in that state because you're a mouth breather, you're a chest breather, and you're doing that kind of stuff. But it can take an hour up to return you back to the parasympathetic if you're breathing correctly. Some people are chronically stuck inside their sympathetic nervous system, which will cause chaos, won't allow us to relax, won't allow us, and when we're in that state, certain things get shut down. So just like digestion is one of the most energy dependent or energy consuming things that we do, because when we eat and we digest, a lot of things get turned off or they get turned way down in order to digest the food and assimilate the nutrients and everything. Tumo, which is also AKA breath of fire, AKA Wim Hof method. So the Wim Hof method it's basically heavy Tumo breathing combined with cold exposure, and it helps to release adrenaline, cortisol, norepinephrine on command. It also releases immune cells to heal wounds, destroy pathogens, and infections. So there was a video where they injected Wim Hof with something. It was, I forget the exact disease or virus that they put in him, but he basically, through his breathing and cold exposure, he basically got rid of it in like 30 minutes. So Tumo heats your body up and opens up your brain's pharmacies. So opioids, dopamine, serotonin, all this stuff comes out. Okay. At the end of this webinar is a guided Wim Hof breathing, and I'll also link a article going over Dr. Jack Kruse's opinion on Wim Hof breathing, and it's why I don't do it nearly as frequently. I used to do it every day, but I would not recommend it every day. Once we get to that video, I will go over protocols and everything there. Yeah, so not everyone is Wim Hof, not everybody is doing the cold exposure, and not everybody will do the cold exposure, but I think everybody should do the cold exposure. That will be a future webinar. And if you are more interested in that, you can check out the hashtag CT with Yun on Instagram and Facebook. And you can also check out Dr. Jack Kruse's cold thermogenesis series. So he's got, I think, 13 or 14 blog posts on it. I think everybody should do it, but again, not everybody is Wim Hof. And one thing interesting about Wim Hof is that he is considered the leading breathing technique expert in the world, and he smokes. So that goes to show you the power of breathing and how it can, and the power of the cold.
Okay, because I mean, if he, yeah, I mean, everybody knows smoking is stupid, but yeah. All right. So, brain blood, or this will be brain blood barrier. So the BBB. So every minute, approximately every minute, 750 milliliters of blood goes through the brain. So that's the equivalent of one wine bottle. Right? If you breathe too heavy, you exhale too much CO2, which will narrow your blood vessels, will decrease your circulation, particularly the brain, and it'll go up to 40% depending on how much and how long you do it. And that's also one of the reasons that I don't recommend Wim Hof breathing every day. You're only supposed to do it for 6 minutes, or 3 to 6 minutes at a time, or 3 to 9 minutes at a time. So 1 to 3 rounds. But yeah, so it depends on your context, just like a lot of things depend on your context. So should you be taking a certain supplement? Should you be doing a certain protocol? Should you be eating this certain food, that certain food? It all depends on your context. Should you be exercising? All depends on your context. Are you leptin resistant? Then you should not be doing certain types of exercise. pH balance, pH imbalance, basically pH is basically a measure of protons. So if you have too many protons, or you have too little, or you have just the right amount. pH imbalance sends distress signals through the body, through your limbic system especially, and you get emotionally aroused, other instincts get aroused. If you're too long and you're too much in the, if you do it too long, too much, the limbic system can think the body is dying, which is not a good thing. And like I said, with digestion, certain things will get shut down, or they will get greatly reduced. So we won't be able to have the full function of all of our organs, all of our brain, all of our blood. Okay? So when certain things go awry, usually more blood gets pushed into that area to help restore it. And things get taken away, more minerals get taken away and whatnot. Carbon dioxide is greater than oxygen. Once you feel the need to breathe, the feeling that you need to breathe is activated by neurons, central chemoreceptors at the base of your brain stem. You breathe slow, your carbon dioxide levels will rise. You breathe fast, carbon dioxide levels will drop. Our body's breathing is dictated by carbon dioxide, not oxygen. Oxygen is usually very stable in the body. So I believe it was 90%. If it goes under 90%, you're in deep trouble. But I think optimal, I think the numbers are 95% to 98, 99. So my last physical, I was at 98%. My old phone used to track my oxygen tensions, but for some reason, it was an upgraded phone, and it's not able to track that. It was able to track my pulse. It was able to do all kinds of things. But getting off subject here. So you can train your chemoreceptors for training or creating more carbon dioxide, or your ability to handle more carbon dioxide. So athletes, elevation training, free divers, people getting rid of asthma. Again, that book, Hold Your Breath, that's basically what that's for, getting rid of asthma. And other respiratory diseases, treating fear and treating anxiety. Okay? And we definitely, and just basic life. Okay? Everybody needs to breathe better. So we're able to have more longevity, have more better lung capacity, be able to control our thoughts better. So two things you can control: your breath. Once you're able to control your breath, you're able to control your thoughts better. And you are able to control your thoughts, but if you are a mouth breather, if you're a chest breather, you're not so much able to control your thoughts. I mean, things will get go awry and all that stuff. Anxiety, high anxiety people, chronic mouth breathers, chronic chest breathers, okay, which I used to be. So carbon dioxide exposure increases oxygen to the muscles, the organs, the brain. It dilates your arteries to increase blood flow, and it burns more fat. Okay, remember, we breathe out fat, okay, and a lot more stuff. Okay, so conscious breathing. There is, we went over this a little bit earlier, but there's 0 pause between your exhale and inhale. So you're going to inhale 6 seconds in, and then you go right into that exhale. And then once all the air is pushed out, you're right back into that inhale. Okay. Now, when you're doing 6 seconds, you don't have to go all the way. You don't have to take all the air in. Okay. That's not nearly as important as blowing all the air out when you're breathing. Usually any type of breath, unless you're performing a certain type of breath for a certain something. Okay. There's thousands of different breath techniques. So perform it this way until a 30-second exhale is possible. Okay. So with that, I usually like to teach the Ujjayi breathing. So it's basically like breathing through the back of your throat, because you're able to slow your breathing down incredibly. I'll post the video going over that in the webinar notes as well. But if you breathe that way, you will not have any toxins and you will be disease-free. That's a quote from Swami Rama, who was an Indian yogi. But yeah, the Ujjayi breathing, Ujyya. And I think there's different spellings on it, but that's how I've spelled it. So Ujjayi breathing, basically creating like a wind tunnel. So trying to breathe through the back of your throat. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be, you can try to make it as soft as you can so you can take the longest breath that you can. Low oxygen state. Cancer develops and thrives in a low oxygen state. This can also be said to be a low electron state. Because remember, if you are hypoxic, the electrons are not flowing through electron chain transport to reduce to oxygen as well. Okay? And all cancers are also associated with low vitamin D. Vitamin D is basically your innate immunity. UVB light makes vitamin D, and most dermatologists will tell you that UV light is bad. Okay? Kind of an oxymoron there. Okay. And most eye docs and docs in general say UV light is bad for your eyes. Then why do we have a UV light receptor, a neuropsin, on our cornea? So neuropsin absorbs approximately 3% of UVA light and approximately 1% of UVB light. Okay. So next time your doc says UV light is bad, wear sunglasses, tell them, nope. What about neuropsin, doc? That's our UV light receptor. And it's also in skin as well. Slow, less, nose. Breathing slowly means breathing less. And done through the nose balances the gases and sends your body the max amount of oxygen. And the electrons can go through electron chain transport to reduce to that oxygen to the tissues, so our cells have the maximum amount of electron reactivity. Once electrons flow slows down, if it is not fixed, disease occurs. So electrons stop moving, you are dead. It's that simple. So if it is not fixed, okay, eventually it will start the path of inflammation. Inflammation will start to give you symptoms that something is wrong. The majority of people will ignore those symptoms, or they'll go to a doctor, they'll get prescription, they'll get some kind of cream, they'll go to a drugstore, get over-the-counter medicine, they'll do something, they'll drink more coffee, they will do something, but they will ignore those symptoms. Never ignore symptoms. Your body is the best and greatest doctor in the entire world. Okay? It is working on a quantum scale. Every second, in every cell, there's 100,000 reactions going on, chemical reactions going on in every single cell. And remember, we have trillions upon trillions of those cells. Okay? So it knows how to fix you. It knows it gives you things, it gives you symptoms, it gives you signs, and you have to listen to those signs. And you have to do something about those signs. If not, then it'll get worse, and it'll get worse, and it'll get worse, and eventually you'll have a disease, or you'll have diseases, or you'll have organ failure, or you'll just drop dead. Okay? So fix it now. If you don't know how to fix it, ask me. Okay? If I don't know how to fix it, I will send you to somebody who does, or I refer you information to better understand it and learn how to fix it. The yoga, the ancient. So ancient yoga is all about breath, sitting, being still, holding the poses, and focusing on breathing, your prana. It wasn't until the 20th century that yogis invented the vinyasa flow and turned yoga basically into an aerobic dancing session. Yoga was designed for healthy people, not to cure problems, to take these healthy people to the next level or heat themselves up on command with their breathing, okay? Or expand consciousness or control their nervous system, and to live longer, vibrant lives. That I found fascinating about yoga, and I actually tried doing the breathing, and I would hold poses for 10 seconds, or not 10 seconds, 10 breaths, okay? So depending on which hold I was in, the breath would vary in length, but doing that was basically the best yoga session I've done. So it was, and the next day you're incredibly sore because you're holding an isometric pose for that much longer, and it was incredible. So if you are into yoga, highly recommend trying to hold the poses a lot longer, and yeah, it will be life-changing. And focus on where your breathing goes. Remember, we can control where our breath actually goes. So if we want to breathe into our chest, if we want to breathe into our stomach, if we want to breathe through our low back, breathe into the ankles, breathe into the calves, breathe into the quads. All you need is focus, and the right breathing pattern. So obviously breathing through the nose, breathing through the diaphragm, that kind of stuff. All right, so these are just some breathing techniques, and in the appendix, or I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, basically I'll have a bunch, as I'm going through breathing techniques, I'll be putting them up there and making separate videos of it, but these are just some of them. So pranayama, Buteyko, especially the Buteyko is the controlled pause, mini breath holds throughout the day, nose songs, so humming, decongest the nose, coherent breathing, hypoventilation, breathing coordination, holotropic breath work, atoms, madhyama, mutama, kevala, embryonic breath, harmonizing breath, the breath by the master great nothing, Tumo, aka Wim Hof, aka breath of fire, Sudharshan Kriya, Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breathing, and box breathing. Okay. So a lot of the breathing techniques do come from the original yogis who were from India, which is why the Indian language is in a lot of these breathing techniques. All right, so coming to an end here, I include this in a lot of my other webinars here, but attitude. So a bad attitude is like a flat tire. You can't go anywhere until you change it. So mindset and attitude. I had a yawn there. Close my mouth. So that's something I've been working on as well. So closing your mouth when you yawn, and also closing your mouth when you cough. So, so you're coughing through your nose. So any amount of opening that mouth is what we want to avoid. So we're so used to just yawning and opening our mouth that we just continue doing it. But sometimes I can't hold it because the yawn is very powerful, and it's like a lot of times I'll pinch when I feel a big strong one coming on, I'll pinch my lips together and then do it. But I mean, changing your habits is hard. So you've got to focus on it, and you've got to be aware of what you're doing. But yeah, it's a mindset thing. It's an attitude thing. You've got to be willing to take new information and then biohack that information. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're just going to suffer a modern man disease. Okay? You're going to die from a modern man disease, basically. You must have the attitude of a student who wants an A+, because the result is better health, it's a better brain, it's a better body for the rest of your life. Question everything and never settle, because something works for someone doesn't mean it will work for you. Again, context, 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 context for your situation. Some people are just 2 feet deep. Others are 20 feet deep. Okay? Others are 2 feet out of the pot. Others are 10 feet out of the pot. Okay? So it just depends where you are. Everybody's mitochondria is different, and everybody's environment is different based on actions that we take, our workplace, okay? What we do for fun, where we go, all this stuff. How we deal with our technology. All right. So there's no food. This is, I think I just forgot to eliminate this, but just a reminder, no food, no exercise, no supplement, nothing that can deliver as much health benefits as the sun. However, if you are not breathing correctly, then the sun's health benefits, the sun's ability to reverse your disease is going to be limited. I just made a post the other day talking about how in where I live, Columbus, Ohio, which is the 40th latitude, we only get probably anywhere from 4 to 4.5 months of good, powerful sun that can actually help reverse your disease or diseases. Okay? And our worst day, our best day of sun here doesn't equate to the worst day of sun in like the tropics. So like in Mexico or somewhere around there. Weather permitting, so it's like if it's storming and whatnot, that doesn't matter. But that is something you have to take into consideration. You have to take into consideration, obviously, your breath, but you have to take into consideration circadian biology and the light. And are you going to, do you want to reverse your disease bad enough to change and change your behaviors and change the mindset that it's all about food and all about exercise? Because it is not. If you do not fix your circadian biology and you do not fix your breathing, nothing is going to matter. Okay? You can eat the healthiest, what people think is the healthiest diet, do all the exercise, it's just going to lead to more and more frustration. Because you see all these, the Biggest Loser show, there's a reason they never have a reunion show. Okay? Because what do? They focused on weight, they focused on eating, they focused on exercise. Okay? Every single one of those people is fat again. Okay? And every single one of them has a destroyed metabolism because of what they did with that, with the over-exercising and all that stuff. So I believe I covered The Biggest Loser and all that stuff in my fasting webinar, which is free on YouTube. All right, but this is the Wim Hof guided breathing. This will be on the webinar notes as well. So I'll let you just watch it here.
All right, guys, welcome. This is a guided breathing session. Relax to the deepest. Lie down, sit down, whatever it takes, relax. Are you ready? Here we go. Round number 1. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Go with the flow of the breath. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, into the belly, into the chest, and let go. Like a wave. Make it circular. Fully in and letting go. Just keep on going. No pause between inhalation and exhalation. Ten more. Fully in, let it go. Five more. Let's give it all we got. Last one. Fully in and let go. All right. 1 minute breath hold from now on. Be in this moment. Let the body do what the body is capable of doing. Be aware of your heartbeat. Slow it down and just be in this moment. Let that relaxation spread down to your toes, into your fingertips, to the base of your neck and head. You are almost there. Do you want to prolong your breath hold? Pause the video now and continue when you feel the urge to breathe. Okay, recovery breath in, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a deep breath in and hold for 15 seconds. Exhale in 3, 2, 1. Let it go. Round number 2. Back into that rhythm. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. In, out. In, out. In, out. Into the belly, into the chest, and let go. Like a wave. Make it circular. Fully in, and letting go. Just keep on going. No pause between inhalation and exhalation. In with peace, out with stress. And more. Fully in, let it go. Nice, deep, circular breaths. Five more. Let's give it all we got. Last one. Fully in. And on the exhale, stop. 1.5 minutes breath hold from now on. Feel. Become aware of your body. If your hands and feet are tingling, or you feel your body temperature is changing, that's okay. You're doing fantastic. If you need to breathe before I give the cue, that's okay. You are almost there. Do you want to prolong your breath hold? Pause the video now and continue when you feel the urge to breathe. When you're ready, fully in and hold for 15 seconds. Exhale in 3, 2, 1. Let it go. Round number 3. Back into that rhythm.
All right, so you get the idea. So there's supposed to be 3 rounds of it. And like I said, on the webinar notes, I will include that video, and also Jack Cruz's opinion on Wim Hof breathing. And it's why I stopped doing it every day. I typically only do it once every week or once every other week. But you can make your own decision, see how you feel, and go from there. But one thing I wanted to close here on breathing. So while the Wim Hof breathing was going, I was doing like mini breath holds. So just breathing in, holding my breath, breathing out, holding my breath. And that's the thing with breathing, you can basically do it anywhere. And especially notice when you are when your breathing is changing. So what are you doing? So there's studies that come out and they say that a lot of people will actually hold their breath when they're checking and reading their email. And so yeah, so you should be more conscious of your breath. And I mean, you can do it. You can do conscious breathing. You can do breath holds, mini breath holds while you're waiting in line for something. Driving is an excellent time to do it. So any time is perfectly fine. Meditation obviously is a great way to focus on your breath and control your breath. They say best time to meditate is in the evening, because your magnetism is going to be increased and it's going to help you sleep. But anytime you can get meditation in is a good time. Just make sure your electropollution is not on, and do it outside if you possibly can. And yeah, so that's my tips for that. And I did get my Vo2 breathing thing here. So I am on number 11. So that's the whole. It gets the number 1 is basically the whole is showing, and the whole goes up to 15. So I'm not up to that point yet, but again, the study came out showing lung capacity is number 1 for life expectancy. But basically, it just goes in and you breathe in. Okay. So obviously it's mouth breathing. I will do this. I mean, it's just usually I do 26 breaths in the morning, and sometimes I will. So I have it hanging in the bathroom. When I go to the bathroom, I'll take 4 to 5 breaths of it, and so typically it's 26 to probably 50 breaths that I do, just to help expand that lung capacity and whatnot. And they make others, so if you find one, let me know. I'd like to take a look at it and all that stuff. But that's the Vo2 expander, I believe it's called. And yeah, so that brings us to the end of this. Again, I will have many breath technique videos coming up in the, I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. So I'll come up with some cool breath related name or something like that. But if you have questions on this webinar or any webinar in Improvement Warrior University, so check them all out. The paid ones, the free ones, everything, and even the ones I did before Improvement Warrior University started. So some of those are still very applicable. I did mention the fasting and intermittent fasting one, and yeah, so that's it. I appreciate you watching this webinar. It took me 4 sessions to complete it, but hopefully it'll change some lives. If you know somebody who's having breathing issues and whatnot, please send them to this webinar, and also send them to the resources page. But otherwise, I will see you on the next webinar, or see you somewhere else, podcast, YouTube, social media, all that good stuff. Email, don't forget to sign up for the newsletter. And have a great day. Till then, have a great day. Stay strong, stay positive. Be the improvement warrior.